Something doesn't seem right. I smell a rat in Denmark. Something's really, really strange about what happened today. And I don't know, it might just be the conspiracy theorist hairs on the back of my neck, but anyone who watches me knows I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not a Trumper. I'm definitely not a Democrat. And I typically vote libertarian. I wouldn't mind if we got rid of the federal government. I already did a live today kind of cataloging what happened or what was happening while things were going down in DC. But I wanted to have this live at the end of the day before I packed it in. And I'm taking live comments and questions. I wouldn't mind a conversation here because something doesn't smell right, right? Like, you know how when you watch these things happen real time and like your bullshit filter kind of like goes off? Something doesn't seem right. And I don't know if it's just kind of like I'm looking for something that's not there and it's more cut and dry. But so the first thing I'm going to show you is this tweet that was made, let's see, maybe a couple hours ago. This dude's like, how is one of the most secure buildings in the world on a day every single high-value VIP in government was convening inside of it, able to be breached by bearded hippies and MAGA hats, right? They didn't fire any shots. In fact, the only shots that I know of that were fired were on the part of state soldiers or state policemen, right? DC Capitol Police that ended up shooting a woman in the neck and I believe has subsequently died from her injuries. I believe it was a riot bullet, right? And there was some hand fighting and things thrown, but for the most part, they took the Capitol building without like some gigantic show of force in terms of weaponry and stuff, right? Like they ran in, pushed their way in, took some photo ops and stuff like that. There's actually some of these videos here where it's they show even the police like removing the barricade and letting people come through at least to the front side of the building, right? So I don't know if this was a measure that was meant to kind of like diffuse the crowd or if someone negotiated with them and said, look, we're going to be completely peaceful. Nothing's going to happen. We just want to go to the front of the building. I don't know what that is, but I mean, the police basically removed the barricades that were further out from the Capitol building and let them in. And then you have situations like this that are just completely comedic, where it's like this chucklehead. Which one is this one? Dr. Bitcoin. This chucklehead who's basically sitting at the front of Congress in the assembly building with American flag, a la President Hector Camacho, and this is like something tells me that they anticipated this to be way worse than it was, and I'm wondering like why. The mainstream media tried to play this up the entire time like it was insurrection and it was them like coming with bloodlust and trying to overthrow the government. And now it's 6 p.m., like a few hours later, they've vacated the Capitol building. Granted, they would have to be pushed out by riot police, but they vacated the Capitol building and now they've kind of like gone back and formed lines and they're hanging out. And as far as I can see from the live feed right now, it doesn't look like there's any main combat that's going on. Okay. It just looks like everyone's kind of like drawing their lines. They're standing back and regrouping. Now, could this flare up again? Sure, of course. But the first melee of this seems really like mundane, like nothing. And something just makes me feel like that this was something that was allowed or let to happen to try and neuter the ire of these people. Like, let them come in, let them do some stuff. Hopefully it gets bloody because then we can use that as leverage, right, to crack down on them or pass, I mean, they've already called a 6 p.m. curfew and things like that, but they're calling up other troops. But back to that first tweet, like, just think about it. This is the Capitol building with pretty much the collective of all of Congress, okay? It's supposed to be one of the most secure buildings in the entire country. and a mob of Americans just kind of forced their way in and didn't have to use guns, okay, to do it. And the only shot fired was a government agent that shot someone in the neck with a riot bullet. All right. Something doesn't smell right here. Something smells like this was allowed to happen. Okay. Again, I don't have a dog in this fight. Something smells like this was allowed to happen under the hopes that it would devolve into something way worse than it was. Okay. Way worse than someone getting in and getting to Pelosi's computer and walking off with her podium, or not her podium, but the speaker's podium. Technically, it's our podium. But just something doesn't seem right here. I mean, if you're watching this and you have some thoughts as far as like whether you think this is legit or not, I would love to hear it. But I'm searching for some rational conclusion as to why this thing just kind of died out. And I've seen some interviews of people that were like, they asked, like, why did you rush the building? They're like, I wanted to talk to my elected representatives. Like, I wanted to go in and talk to Congress, and that was why I ran in. I feel like I needed to voice my opinion to say that this election wasn't legitimate, and I wanted to talk to my representative or talk to the representatives in Congress. And that's I saw that on CNN. I saw it on MSNBC. The dude who was standing next to the woman who got shot gave that very same kind of like interview account. Something doesn't smell right. It really feels like to me that this was allowed to happen, that they let the floodgates open to allow the spectacle, to almost be like, all right, this is the last moment where we allow just like the fires to get lit. We crack down on it and it's done. Right. That's what it makes it seem like this was the hopefully the last straw for them to be able to quiet Trump and quiet his supporters and quiet the people that are questioning the integrity of the election, which I already covered in the first video. But if you think that there are elections in this country or any country for that matter with integrity, I think you're joking yourself. You're bullshitting yourself. But just something seems really strange about this whole thing, where just there was a minimum amount of conflict compared to what could have happened. Talking about the numbers involved, the number of people, the supposed, ire of the people that were showing up to this thing. What happened? Like it kind of fizzled out almost. And I don't want to make light of someone losing their life. I mean, that's tragic. That's awful. Right. But at the same time, the Capitol ain't on fire. Right. Like they didn't try and burn it down. They took a couple of things, but to my knowledge, they haven't like completely vandalized the whole thing and wrote like, eat a dick on the wall. Like they haven't done that. Right. There's no tagging. I've seen all kinds of other stuff about like supposed like, Antifa people dressing like MAGA people and infiltrating the ranks in order to try to like incite some stuff. But something doesn't smell right. Like it doesn't smell right. I just wanted to leave you with that note for the night. If you watch this recording, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And it might take days or weeks for this to actually play out and for us to know some kind of truth about this. But that's my final thought is I'm confused and something doesn't smell right. It's like this was almost allowed to happen for the hopes that it would be worse than it ended up being. So that's all I got. If you see this, please, like, comment, subscribe, share it, hit the notification bell, retweet. Again, if you have any thoughts, what you think this really was, please leave it in the comments. I'll definitely get back to you after this recording is done. And we can have a conversation about it. Thank you, Liberty lovers. Have a good night.